And a very good afternoon to you wherever you're watching us from East Africa. It's time now for KTN Business Today. Indeed, we have a very packed up show coming up for you. We'll be looking at quite a number of items, one of them being every Monday we do have a look at the next frontier. Other than that, we'll be keeping tabs with what's happening with the economy. We have our reporter Adelaide Changole who will be telling us more later on what's happening. We're expecting Cabinet Secretary of Treasury Henry Rotich to give us an update regarding how the economy is performing. Of course, all this is coming up in light of the recent cash crunch. But first, let's take a look at the highlights. State of the Economy. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich gives an update on how the economy is performing. The role of auditors. We speak to Dr. Patrick Ngumi, the CEO of ISPAC, to understand more about this. On the next frontier, we take a look at rice farming in Siaya County. Good afternoon once again. My name is Abi Agina. You can tweet us at KTN Business Today, at KTN Kenya, at KTN News, at Agina Abi to help us bring to you the answers you deserve when it comes to keeping an eye on what's happening in the business world. Speaking about what's been happening, we want to start off with a look at how the money markets have been performing. Today we're seeing the dollar is trading at 102 shillings and 35, selling at 102.55. It has really operated around this figure in the last, should I say, 2 weeks. Other than that, we've also seen the sterling pound selling and buying actually at 157.99, selling at 158. The euro is also quite stable, 116.28, 116.52. Other currencies haven't really had a shock when it comes to the volatility we've seen with the dollar. Let's now move on to the next slide. Just also keep tabs with what's happening at the NSE. And today we're seeing turnover is up at 1.2 billion. Quite interesting there. Shares traded, talking about 36 million. The NSE all 20 share index 3.977, and the bonds traded 2.26. Of course, the bonds are quite critical, knowing that Treasury recently launched the Emma Kiba. It's expected to actually go live later on this month. It's something that will really help the common man when it comes to investing. Other than that, let's take a look at the most active stocks for today. We have NSE at 7.05 million, Safaricom 1.24, Kenya Commercial Bank 0.61, Cooperative Bank 0.26. Those are some of the most active stocks as of now, looking at the trading that we've been getting. And let's take a look at some of the biggest gainers as well. Well, today we're seeing activity on the real estate front, where housing finance is up 4.82%, selling the share at 21 shillings and 75 cents. TransCentury also up by 4.01%, shares selling at 14 shillings and 25 cents. The NSE stock is also not doing pretty bad. It's up by 3.3%, selling at 23 shillings. NIC Bank up by 2.56%, selling at 40 shillings. Let's take a look at some of the biggest, the losers when it comes to trading as of now. Olympia Capital down by 6.38%, share selling at 4 shillings and 40 cents. Express as well not doing pretty well in today's trading, down by 5.49%, selling at 4 shillings and 30 cents. Jubilee Insurance down by 4.07%, share is now at 401 shillings, quite significant there. Atlas down 4%, share selling at 2 shillings and 40 cents. That's just a quick snapshot of how the money markets have been performing as of now. Well, moving on to other stories in the business world, property owners with serviced apartments in Nairobi stand to reap big if findings of a recent survey by real estate firm Knight Frank is anything to go by. The 2016 Global Cities report shows that Kenya is among the global cities that is well positioned to gain from the growing popularity of short-let accommodation in serviced apartments. The report points out that this niche market is growing in its attractiveness, mainly fueled by demand from corporates as well as a generation of younger employees with an appetite for leisure travels. Here's more on that. The real estate sector has enjoyed absolute growth over the years, mainly anchored on a fast-growing urban population and a rising middle class. The need to address the housing deficit in the country, which stands at about 150,000 units per annum, has seen property developers team up with banks to meet the ever-growing needs. Among the areas developers are yet to fully tap into is in the short-term rental apartments. According to a report by Knight Frank, Kenya is set to reap big from this category of housing. According to the Prime Global Rental Index, Nairobi has been placed 7th out of 18 global cities, ranked in terms of the growth in rental prices over the 12 months to June this year. Nairobi was among cities that reported sluggish growth in residential rent prices, which is seen as a reflection of a slowing local and global economy. According to the report, rents for prime residential properties in Nairobi's suburbs increased by only 1.4% in the year to June. For Kenya, the slow growth is due to prime tenants such as the employees of multinational and diplomatic missions no longer being able to pay higher rents. The report says that rents in Nairobi's high-end areas have not increased for 2 consecutive quarters. According to Knight Frank, the low demand is due to companies, especially those in the extractive industries, scaling down their operations in light of poor commodity prices in the international market. The report indicates that for developers to cash in from the short-to-let apartments, branding will be critical. This class of real estate demands quality assurance, which the report calls for developers to focus on uniformity in service quality and booking systems. The Global Cities 2016 report suggests that short-term rental models like serviced apartments stand to reap substantial economic benefits. Investors might now start eyeing this fast-growing niche, with the focus by ECA International indicating that it will grow to over 1/5 of all international relocations in the 3 years to 2017. For investors and landlords, there are clear long-term rewards in the world of short-term rental accommodation and flexible living. Whilst this report paints a rosy picture for investors, property developers have been citing corruption and a difficult regime to break into the highly lucrative property market. Challenges such as approvals from various agencies and issuance of title deeds remains a touchy issue which is yet to be fully addressed to ease the cost of doing business. Abiagina, KTN Business Today. Well, from the rental markets, there's also some new developments as well in the resort niche as well. Property developers of resorts and cities has announced plans for a golf resort project in Murang'a County. As part of its expansion, the golf resort will sit on 1,000 acres of land and will feature an 18-hole golf course, a shopping mall, as well as a medical facility. The developers will lay the infrastructure that will include roads, electricity, sewerage system, as well as the golf course. Resorts and cities will then partner with investors and prospective homeowners to put up the housing at the golf resort. Investors will be charged 5 million shillings for a quarter of an acre, with the project expected to be complete by 2019. The developer is in talks with the government for the construction of a road to unlock the value and potential of the project. Kuna up sound. Well, tourism players in East Africa are working on a pricing review of tourism products to make regional tourism more competitive. The objective of the price competitiveness survey will be to ensure uniformity of prices across 5 countries. The survey will be conducted in partnership with source markets and tourism boards with the key objective of streamlining taxes, prices, airfare, with a view of making East Africa a more affordable and attractive destination. The joint approach to tourism is expected to develop, design and price products that are relevant to the domestic and regional markets while accelerating consumption of the same. So far, under the Northern Corridor Joint Marketing Initiative, some airfares within the region as a result of bilateral agreements signed between member countries, and more continue to be signed. Tanzania and Burundi are yet to formally join the Northern Corridor Initiative, although all indications are that this will happen sooner than later, considering private sector efforts to see this become reality.
Federation Office. We'd like to thank...
We are hoping that with already the significant improvement in the single tourist visa demand, they will probably see the benefit of it. We have already launched a campaign with the help of the Kenya Tourism Federation and also with the help of our counterpart in Rwanda and Uganda to sensitize people about the single tourist visa. Remember that when the visa was launched in 2014, there was not much marketing or sensitization done around the single tourist visa. By end of August this year, we have recorded over 4,000 people who have applied for the single tourist visa.
A population of about 140 million within the 5 countries. And if you look at that 140 million, basically 10% of that is 14 million. If we can get even just 10% of that to travel across the 3 countries, we're talking about an extra number of 1.4 million tourists from the region traveling within the region. So we think this is very, very good news that we'll be able to have now affordable seats.
Indeed, interesting developments there on the regional front. We do hope that the airfare will be coming down quite soon. Well, let's move now to some other developing stories where questions have emerged over the role of auditors in the country following last week's move by the central bank to place Imperial Bank under receivership. The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya has announced it plans to investigate PKF and its auditing of the bank's financials. Specifically, the accountants watchdog wants to establish to what extent the external auditor knew of the reported fraud at the bank and its handling of the bank's books. The impending probe adds to a growing list of audit firms under scrutiny for their alleged role in companies that have been found to have accounting irregularities. Audit firms are obligated to point out such financial malpractices in their reports. Well, so what really is the role of auditors when it comes to giving out signs that something is not going right in a financial institution? Michael Karanja has an interesting guest from ISPAC. Perhaps you can tell us more, Mike.
Obey, thanks, Avi Agina. And obviously that move by the central bank to place Imperial Bank under receivership, a lot of questions asked about auditors, and just to help us put that into perspective, I'm now joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Public Accountants, Dr. Patrick Ngumi. Dr. Patrick, obviously the role of auditors is something that not many Kenyans are aware of. So even just to put the whole story into perspective, what's the key role of an auditor to any institution in this country?
The main work of an auditor in any audit exercise in a year is spelled out in the engagement letter, which is an agreement of the scope of work that the auditor will get involved with. One of the key objectives of that exercise is to give assurances to the stakeholders that based on the information that was provided to them, that they were able to satisfy themselves and therefore giving an opinion regarding the books of account, that they were found to be true and fair. Remember again, the audit exercise comes at the tail end of very many operations in a year, of a lot of transactions in a year. Some organizations do some interim audits just some few months before the end of the year, but you can appreciate that an audit is done on what we call sample basis, on a test check basis. And therefore, an auditor sometimes may not be able to delve into a lot of details. And that is why you realize many organizations, when the audit opinion and the audit exercise is not able to give them the details of some suspects, they are able to engage forensic auditors or forensic investigators. And therefore, at this point, I would want to say that the annual audit exercise, the statutory audit that takes place every year, is not a forensic exercise. It's just something, it's an exercise on the books of account and a bit of operations. The stakeholders, what the auditors think about the status of the company operations.
Obviously, companies also do have internal auditors. So what's that relationship supposed to be in the way internal and external auditors work, so that if any irregularities or malpractices are detected, that it's nipped at the bud and doesn't wait until, in some cases, near collapse before any action is taken?
In real sense, there is quite a multiple of checks and balances in an organization, even before an auditor does his work. Remember, the first doers of any financial transactions or finance work or accounting work are the accountants. You'll find in almost every organization, and especially let me cite the big organizations because they have the capacity even to employ those professionals. You have the head of finance who is supposed to ensure they follow all the requirements of accounting in terms of international financial reporting standards. If it's a government entity, international public sector accounting standards. Then from there, the work of the accountant or the finance head is checked by the internal auditors. Again, internal auditors are accountants, unless in some special organizations where you find an internal auditor who may not be an accountant per se, because they may need to check some things that are not necessarily financial. And then eventually, the external auditors come in. It is expected that the external auditor will put reliance on the work of the internal auditor when he comes in for planning for the audit. One of the reports that he needs to get hold of are the quarterly reports. We have a culture of where organizations in this country, internal auditors produce their internal audit reports on a quarterly basis. Based on the highlights that the internal auditor puts in his report, the external auditor is able to make judgment whether he needs to go into details into some areas or whether he needs just to do it determines even the sample that will be taken from particular areas of operation. But again, the report of the internal auditor is not a foolproof report for the auditor to hide behind it. He's supposed to do his work as guided by international standards on auditing.
Let's just look at the recent case and with Imperial Bank, because there are fears that, because they went 2 months prior, they were just their books had been checked by both central bank and even the Capital Markets Authority when they were just coming to market with a bond. In this kind of scenario, weren't there questions that could have been raised at that level before we even got to where we came to last week Tuesday?
Okay, audits, it's an exercise up to a particular period of time. There are matters that we audit events that may arise that are not in the purview of the auditor. But again, remember that the auditor has an engagement. The engagement that the auditor or the external auditor normally has is with the shareholders through the fiduciary role of the directors. So what normally happens is that whenever an auditor finds something, he is able to flag those matters to the board of directors through a management letter. It's a memo that highlights all the issues that the audit feels the board of directors need to know. In most instances, the board is able to give assurances to the auditor on the mitigation measures that are going to be taken in order for those things not to bring injuries into or to bring problems into the company. Once the auditor is assured of those and they are documented, it's not just verbal confirmations, they are documented. Then after that the auditor is able to make a decision. But you need to know the accountancy world is going to change, especially the auditing world from the year 2017. You know, even if you pack matters in the management letter, and you are given assurances, and then you make a decision, the auditor goes and gives a clean bill of health, a clean report, a clean audit report. That is going to change.
So how is that engagement supposed to then to happen? Because you know sometimes the auditor might have raised might have noticed a red flag, but no one knows of that red flag other than management, who might also be, you know, the ones perpetuating some cover-ups of some sort. So then how then do we ensure that that management, the management note also is something that can be come through to you? Role that we're able now to put pressure on how auditors and the company now work going forward.
Okay, before I come to that, let me say that what I was trying to say, the auditors would be expected to highlight key audit matters. If you come across something and you highlight in the management letter, that is not enough. They will be expected, the auditors will be expected to use their judgment to flag out key audit matters in the audit opinion. That is a new development in this world. It's a new development that has been issued by the International Federation of Accountants, and we ascribe to it. The other issue is that, remember, even if a management letter is flagged, or issues are flagged to management, the final responsibility of preparation of books of account, if you go through the Companies Act, it is the board of directors. So what this means is that the directors need to be on top of those issues. They need to vet the assurances that have been given by the management on their behalf before a decision is made.
Quite interesting. They're just coming into that. And obviously you pointed out that forensic audits are the ones that actually do a more in-depth analysis of any company's book, if any company's financials. So is it a case now perhaps where now, as part of also quarterly or even annual audits, where perhaps a forensic audit is done on some companies perhaps, or even all, as a measure just to ensure that some of these scenarios don't come to the fore again?
I think forensic audits are expensive. What I would recommend to organizations is to strengthen their internal audit departments. If you strengthen the internal audit department and ensure independence, you ensure independence of the department, such that the department reports to the board through the and I want to have recently launched Mugozo Code for corporate governance for state corporations. The way the internal audit will be structured is very comprehensive. And that is a model even for companies in the private sector to ensure the independence of the internal audit department and ensure there's an audit committee that is responsible to the board.
And perhaps for those of us who are not in the know, what are some of the things that as accountants you look for, and as auditors that you look for? What are some of the boxes that need to be ticked before any company is given a clean bill of health?
The first thing is auditors normally check a bit of legal compliance, whether there's compliance with the Companies Act, compliance with any other relevant laws within the business operations of a certain company. Then the other thing, and that is largely what the auditors do, is compliance with the International Financial Reporting. If the preparers of books of accounts are able to disclose things financial transactions in the manner prescribed within the IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards, then the auditor will be able to say, yes, this is okay. But remember, there's one thing to disclose, and there's one thing to not disclose. In most instances, like some of the, even the cases we have had globally, some of them is dishonesty in disclosure. If you disclose honestly, the auditor will be able to make his judgment and move on.
Right. Quick question. ISPAC has also been under pressure because, you know, people have said that these cases are now becoming quite a number with different organizations. So even as the overseer of the accounting profession in this country, what are some of the actions that can be taken if audit firms are found to be culpable, or even the internal auditors themselves found to be culpable of cover-up?
One thing I can tell you, the members we license to conduct audits, audit exercises, are very qualified, and they are ascribed to particular code of ethics, and their penalties are allowed in a breach, and the highest penalty for any professional is expulsion from or suspension from a professional body. No member, no practitioner would want to go to that level, and I know they take due care. But definitely, sometimes in a multitude of many people, you may not fail here and there to get somebody who doesn't ascribe to the requirements. In our case, we are currently working on revising the Accountants Act, which will come up with some stiffer penalties, some deeper requirements, including some refreshing requirements. Yes.
All right. Fire awards are coming up this week?
Yeah, the fire awards are coming on Thursday. There's a conference on Friday, and we do have the award gala dinner on Friday, 23rd of October. And we are looking forward to it. The most unfortunate thing is that there's this misconception about the Financial Reporting Awards. Financial Reporting Awards is about disclosure. It's not an auditing exercise. It's voluntary. But I see people saying this company got fire award this year and next year it's in trouble. No. Fire award is about how well do you disclose your operations to your stakeholders in terms of simplified financial statements that follow the International Financial Reporting Standards, in terms of your social responsibility, in terms of your governance, in terms of environmental responsibility, and the like. It's more of how integrated is your reporting.
Yes. Just finally, confident of growth of the accounting profession?
Sorry?
Confident of growth of the accounting profession?
I think the accounting profession has grown tremendously, and currently the Institute has a membership of 18,000, and I would encourage parents and even the students and the guardians who are making choices on career to seriously consider accounting.
All right.
Yes.
Many thanks. That has been Dr. Patrick Ngumi, Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, just telling us more about the role and what is expected of auditors in this country and some of the issues that go through when one is coming up with a complete audit report. We'll take a short commercial break, but when we come back, we will have that next frontier. And this week, we're going to be looking at rice farming in Siaya County, just how is someone using technology and different farming practices to improve the yields of rice farming. Don't want to miss that. Don't go too far.